Hello, and thank you for accessing this recording. My name is Gemma McGregor, and I'm the Provider Development Officer for the Education and Early Years T-Level at NCFE. In this bite-sized recording, we're going to explore the Chief Examiner's Report for Education and Early Years Core Exams Summer 24 series. We'll be providing some insights into their findings around both Core Paper A and Core Paper B, sharing some key themes to celebrate, some areas for development, and how to address them within your classroom. Let's begin with Paper A. This series we can see that written communication skills were generally good. Many students have been producing well-organised work and using appropriate language. It was also evident that while students showed strong recall in some topics, they struggled to expand on their knowledge in longer answer questions. There were some areas for development. Specifically, a lack of clarity and depth was seen across students' understanding of learning theories and their application in practice. A lack of clarity and depth seen in student responses in relation to the command verbs, which resulted in marks not being achieved. The majority of students did not respond to maths-related questions, or if they attempted them, they calculated the answers incorrectly. And responses were not always aligned with the scenario or age range. Let's move on to Paper B. Here we can see that there was a wide range of vocabulary applied in this paper, and most students used appropriate language and responses were mostly well structured. Students who received higher marks typically provided well-structured responses that showcased their knowledge, included relevant examples, and demonstrated a good overall understanding of the early years foundation stage. Students who demonstrated good knowledge and understanding were then able to effectively link their responses to their placement experiences. Where gaps occurred, they were focused within these areas. There was a lack of development of reflective practice and limited knowledge of statutory requirements and codes of practice. Students weren't routinely including links between theory and practice, and an underdevelopment of responses to the higher mark questions led to lower marks overall. Two-part questioning was also missed, and some scenarios were misinterpreted. We're now going to explore some strategies that you could use moving forward to help your students close gaps in their exam technique and subject knowledge. Using the key themes across both papers A and B, let's look at what we can do to support our students moving forward. You'll see on screen now that each theme has been identified and an associated strategy beneath. These suggestions are designed to help you not only engage your students in the more challenging aspects of the core papers, but encourage them to take ownership of their own progress. Let's begin with maths. Use examples drawn from previous papers to develop your students' confidence in tackling these questions. Collaborate with colleagues and find real examples from placements to help students make links to the development of their core skills. Can you unpick the underlying mathematical skills they need to develop? Could you collaborate with a maths teacher or functional skills tutor to support you and your students? Next, let's look at exam practice. Increase classroom exposure to extended response questions, focusing on how to structure answers, how to make sure the answer is complete, and how to successfully link theoretical knowledge with practical examples. Ask your students to highlight command verbs in an extended response question to help them focus their answers. Could they write their own questions and ask a peer to answer it? You could extend this by asking them to mark some peer responses. This is a great way to prepare them for the ESP too, as they'll need to give peer feedback. Next, let's look at critical thinking. Invite and inspire your students to engage in activities that challenge them to apply critical thinking to complex scenarios. Give them opportunities to analyse and evaluate throughout all 12 elements. This needs to become second nature. Case studies and research activities are a great way for you to foster students' confidence in giving their own opinions, but do remember to ask them to justify their answers. Next, let's look at reflective practice. Use a range of reflective models in the classroom and be creative. Encourage students to reflect on their learning to support their own development. You can apply this across all of the elements. You could create a reflective journal template. Whilst this isn't a requirement of the course, many providers adopt this approach to get students into the habit of reflecting regularly. Ask your students to collect reflective model templates and debate or discuss which they think is best, but don't forget to ask them to explain why. Relevant age ranges. Remember that the core content covers a broad age range of birth to 19. This means giving students opportunities to explore themes and topics broadly so they can apply their knowledge in different contexts. Could you ask a colleague if your students could shadow them for a day or a session? Can you make opportunities for them to visit different age ranges? If you can, then this will really support them to make comparisons as to how theory is applied in practice in different settings. If not, could you have guest speakers? Perhaps someone from a post-16 setting delivering a session on how their planning might differ from early years would be really useful. And lastly, exam questions. Spend some time explaining assessment objectives or AOs and how they link to different types of exam question. Encourage your students to explore short answer, multiple choice and extended response questions. Ask the students to unpick the command verbs from questions and then match them to an assessment objective. So, for example, if they see the word apply, they'll know that this is an AO2 skill. Set time aside to share the differences between short answer and extended response, encouraging the students to break them down into component parts. As part of their classroom activities, ask each student to create their own multiple choice question at the end of each session to demonstrate something they've learned. You could then collect them and collate them into an end of element test. Don't neglect exam technique. Structure, handwriting, proofreading and timing are really good things to practice. Now that we've explored some strategies and real ideas you can try in your classroom, I'd like to remind you of the support we offer during your T-level delivery. There are many more recorded sessions on our YouTube playlist, which is accessible following the link on screen or by searching for NCFE on YouTube. From this video today, you'll be able to navigate back to our early education and early years specific recordings. You'll find videos here that cover topics from ESP support, learning theories, reflective practice, and tips from other providers. Please do spend some time finding what's appropriate for you, your team, and your students. You can also find support materials via our qualifications page. If you're new to T-levels, please do visit this page and take a look. Here you'll find lots of resources to support your delivery. Via the page on screen now, you can book to join us on our live events and see what support we're offering during the academic year. The page is divided into months so you can easily see what's coming up, what's available, and plan it into your diary. We also offer one-to-one support. If you haven't already, please do book a call with me so that we can book together as you either begin your journey or continue your T-level delivery. These calls are designed to be bespoke for your provider and a chance to get support and for us to answer your questions. You'll see the link to book a call is on the bottom of the slide. If you have any individual T-level queries in the meantime, you can also email our dedicated T-level team via the email address on screen. Lastly, we'd really appreciate it if you could use the QR code on screen to share your valuable feedback. Your comments really do help us reflect on our sessions and offer targeted and relevant support, which in turn allows you to get the best outcomes for your students. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I hope you found this recording useful, and I look forward to seeing you at our live events over the coming academic year.